We're back with more legal insight from our friends at Peterson Law Office.
We love when they come here. Listen, we are jotting that information down. So Justin Peterson and Masten Childers III joins us now to talk all things law office. So, okay, we are coming off a 2.5 week snowstorm.
Yeah.
You know, it was really causing some issues out there, right?
Yeah.
Go completely away. Don't come back.
No.
But I know you all have been receiving calls out the wazoo. Tell us about some of those calls that you've been receiving.
Yeah. Oh my goodness! I mean, anything and everything. I mean, we're so blessed to have the business that we have. We get so many calls per day. We have amazing staff that are sympathetic. I'll tell you what we get a lot of calls about. It's about fairness. People will call us and they'll say, it's not fair that I have to pay all these medical bills or I have to miss work because someone ran a red light or something else happened. And that's one of the things that we deal with every single day is people's idea of fairness and the fact that they've been put in this unfortunate situation due to the negligence of another person. And so we're blessed to have such a sympathetic staff that really walks people through this really scary process. And so that's what we get a lot of calls about is it's not fair that this thing just happened to me. So let's go fix it for you.
How does that translate when it's a government entity? Not that it just happened, but I just got a call right before we went on the air from one of my daughters who was driving down the road, and I guess it was a piece of ice or something like that. It looks like it did a little damage to the front right fender. And so that's the same thing you guys are talking about, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And when you're dealing with a governmental entity, you have to deal with immunity and whether or not they're immune. And that's what we do, is we figure out whether or not that negligence steps outside of the immunity realm and allows you to recover against them. And most times you can. There's ways to do it. I'll tell you, I fell on the street the other day trying to move a car in the ice, and I fell backwards and ended up in the ER with a concussion. And after
you were on this program, we told you to be careful.
Right. And I'll tell you, but about fairness, it's funny. I called Justin immediately because that's what I tell people to do, and so that's what I do. And you know what he said to me? He said, "Why did you do it in front of your own house? Right? Why didn't you do it somewhere else?"
Right.
But I have over $6,000 in medical bills that I have to pay, and I don't feel like it's fair. But this one was my fault. So when you fall or when you've been in a car wreck and you have all these medical bills that mount up, and they mount up super quick, it's not fair. So call us, let us help you figure it out. That's just what we want everybody to absolutely understand we are there to do.
And I've even noticed that some folks, I know children had to go back to school today. Some parents are still dealing with icy conditions. Let's say, I know, right? Get out the house. But they're sliding down some of their residential streets.
The sidewalks are awful.
Right. And so with that being said, let's say there's a vehicle just sitting at the bottom of the hill for several days. They don't go back to check that car out, but there's some damage. Then who becomes liable?
Sure. So it's all about reasonable acts, right? So the law really turns to what's reasonable and what's not. Was someone, were they using reasonable care in whatever activity that they were performing? And if they weren't, and that causes an injury, then absolutely they can be liable. Now, if something involves a motor vehicle, here's the key: is there's additional benefits available, not just liability benefit that we're talking about. There's also, if you're using a motor vehicle, you get no-fault benefits under Kentucky law, and that's personal injury protection. That's the first $10,000 that pays regardless of fault for your medical bills and lost wages. Masten, we're going to argue that since he was pushing a car, that arose out of the use of a motor vehicle. So we're going to say, hey, car insurance, pay that $6,000 medical bill for Masten. Thank goodness he called me because I'm going to help him out.
So here's a question now. Am I right about this? I think the mayor abated having to shovel the sidewalks or something.
Correct.
So how do you deal with that?
From a liability perspective, again, discretionary acts usually have immunity. So if state actors are using their discretion to make certain decisions, there's likely immunity for those types of things. Wow. Now, if they are violating a ministerial duty, for example, if there's a local code or a law that says you must do X, Y, and Z, and you don't do X, Y, and Z, then we would argue there is no immunity.
Okay.
Great. Yeah. And you better know that stuff,
right?
Because you and I don't know.
We don't.
Stuff,
So that's why we call Justin and Masten.
There
of course.
You go. Yes. Guys, we appreciate it. JustinPetersonLaw.com. Thanks so much for being in with us.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.